morning and welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Also a program of They Didn't Show Today. So what do we talk about, Judith K., the weather?
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the weather because we've got to have good weather because we are having a big weekend in Lincoln, America.
Well, all right, we're going to talk about that in a minute. I want to tell you about a very nice thing that happened in the community last Friday. I went to the Washington Monroe School where we dedicated some playground equipment in the playground to a young man who sat in that chair just opposite us some time ago, Ryan Williams. Met with a tragic accident, terribly tragic accident, and happily the community gathered together in great numbers and coughed up some big money, and we have a wonderful program dedicated, our playground dedicated to young Ryan Williams, whose family is, by the way, is steeped in education, his father and his grandfather, so I thought that was a very nice thing. Now I'm going to mention the name Ralph Gale Field. And does anybody know where that is and what Ralph Gale Field is? And then the first one to call in, I'll buy breakfast. Seriously. Seriously, the first one that calls in tells me who Ralph Gale Field is at 648-5510, because I want to talk about that in just a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to come up with a comment that I read somewhere. Well, I know it was in the Burton View Gazette. That's where I read it. And Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote this some time ago. Those of you who have forgotten, Sam was a stocking clerk at Clint Green's grocery store in Burton View. Common sense is an uncommon degree, is what the world calls wisdom. There's a great lack of that in the Beltway out there in the great city of Washington, D.C., and old Sam Coleridge must have looked ahead as he made this statement. Common sense in an uncommon degree is what the world calls wisdom. Well, lacking of that, so anybody wants to comment on that or take me to the woodshed on that, that'll be fine, as long as I get my coffee to go with me. Or maybe if it's in the afternoon, possibly something else.
Possibly.
To give you a degree, David, out there at the asylum, I gave you the wrong information yesterday morning in the gazebo. Our guests are stuck on the courthouse roof and couldn't get off, so we were to have had Mr. Blankenship and Bill Walter talk about what's going on in the courthouse dome, because they're getting looks kind of quiet up there, but I'm certain that there's work going on every day. So maybe they got hung up on the 2x4 up there and couldn't get off the courthouse roof. So David, I didn't tell you the correct story yesterday morning when you asked me who we had. So we're open. This is an open mic thing now. We're going to turn you open. If you have any comments and or criticisms, Judith and our big folks now, we're old enough to take criticism, and it won't hurt that much. Oh, I may pout a little bit, but that's all right. 648-5510. Anybody wants to rescue the old fella and Mrs. Busby, we'd be appreciative of that. The Ralph Gale thing, I kind of surprised nobody called me. Maybe nobody's hungry. I'm going to go ahead and tell you why I mentioned that. Ralph Gale Field is right across from what is now the junior high. And it was across from the old high school building when I was a kid, 1888, that would be. Seriously, Mr. Gale, a great gentleman, a great farmer, retired farmer in the community, and a supporter of all things kids. He was a wonderful old gentleman, and somebody in their infinite wisdom, and I suspect it was the District 27 Board of Education, decided to name that facility Ralph Gale Field, which I thought was a nice thing. Well, Mr. Kent Frobe, the administrator, and the board of District 27 have seen fit to redo that field, and it's including AstroTurf. They're spending some considerable money on it, and I think it's money well spent and worthwhile. So a tip of the hat. This would be the kudo of the day, seriously. Tip of the hat to everybody who was involved in the improvements that have been made to the Ralph Gale Field. And you just going to sit there and pout all day, or are you going to tell me something today?
Are you talking to me? Yeah, I'll tell you something. I'll tell our listeners.
She owes 51% of the show. I got to give her some time.
If anybody, now it's a little late for today. There's been a mix-up someplace, and I'm willing to accept the blame for it. It could very well be me, believe you me. But at any rate, David Blankenship and Mr. Walter are not here, and they're busy working up on the courthouse, and we were going to talk with them about that, but it's a little late now. So anyway, we'll just go ahead, and if you have any ideas of any either subject matter or person that you'd like to hear on Viewpoint, we would be ever so glad to hear from you, and we'll try and get a hold of them and have them on here one of these times. Bill, give them our number again, please and thank you.
648-55, excuse me, testing 1, 2, 648-5510.
Right.
That goes a little bit better.
217 area code.
I'm sorry?
217.
Oh, yes, yeah, thank you, Mr.
Oh, you have to use
We
that.
have to use 217, 648-5510. Without the 217, they're going to hang up on you.
Well, yeah, I know. No, they're very polite about it. They call and say, "That ain't going to work, lady." So they just discontinue.
You can't look it up in the phone book because the phone book, the phone directories are different around here. Finding somebody's name in the phone book is like finding gold in Sugar Creek.
Well, they don't have a phone book, I don't think, anymore that has just plain people.
Yeah.
For instance, like the three of us. You know, you have to be an advertiser
Landline.
and have a landline.
I'll say I want to give you an alert to next week's program. We're going to have an excellent program here. Through the auspices of Marcia Fernandez and Mr. Joe Shaler, who community movers and shakers, and I say that with respect. We're going to have Becky Strait, who's the director of Lincoln Park District, on with Joe and Marcia, and they're going to be talking about the ability to raise money for tiny homes, among other things.
Tiny homes,
Tiny
yeah.
homes. That's a great.
Jim, do you know off the top of your head what the address of the completed tiny home is?
Well, it's on the corner of 6th and College Streets, all I can tell you.
Okay, well, that's close enough. So if anybody wants to drive by there and see what we're talking about.
That's a very,
Those are
very
tiny
neat
homes.
thing in the community. If anybody has any comments about that, we would entertain your airtime. Somebody said, guys, that's awful small. Well, of course, that's why they call it tiny. It's a heck of a lot better than living in your car, folks, or on the street somewhere. And by the way, the folks who were behind that move, that effort, the gentleman moved into that house, and he had a refrigerator that was full, and the cabinets were stocked. Another evidence of Lincoln, Illinois, stepping to the front and swinging a big bat.
And thank God for the people who do the stepping up to the plate. This weekend's going to be a big weekend in Lincoln. I'd be curious to know what annual this is. They've been doing this for any number
Dave,
of
you can
years.
go back to bed now, Dave.
And we're going to have balloons over 66, and that's always something that everybody has enjoyed, seeing the balloons fly, and there'll be other things that'll go along with that. And we're starting on Friday, and we're going through Sunday, so that's balloons over 66 all weekend. And Friday evening, it's at 6 o'clock. And the balloons will be launched, and you can appreciate them. And there are various places about town that are serving foods, and dock dogs are one thing on McLean Street between Broadway and Pulaski on Saturday. And but do go down and see if you can't go downtown, just look up. And there they'll be all weekend long. So let's all pray for some decent weather and enjoy this. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Your break time was just about right, and time for Mr. Rice to flip the commercial switch. Right back live in the studios here at WLCN, high on the hill at Lazy Willow, County Road 2250. Program, of course, is Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. And the perspectives went out the windows, and so did the personalities due to a hookup of some sort. That, anyway, in any event, Judy and I are muggling along here. Did want to tell you about next, let me see here. The date is September the 10th. The Lincoln Park District is going to sponsor, and we're going to talk about this next week with Marcia Fernandez and Joe Shaler and Becky Strait from the Park District. But they're going to raise some money in Memorial Park for a scholarship in Scott Brown's name. Those of you who have been hiding under a basket somewhere don't know that Logan County Sheriff's Department lost a whale of a deputy when we lost Scott Brown to esophageal cancer. A really fine gentleman. Had a tremendous impact on a lot of youth in the community by virtue of his taekwondo, and I'm not even sure I can say that correctly. But in any event, Scott Brown had that taekwondo studio, and a lot of kids benefited from that, not necessarily just in the physical sense of learning how to do taekwondo or whatever that is. The impact that Scott had on the youngsters because of he being Scott Brown and his interest in the youth of our community. So I want to call your attention to the fact that you're going to have Memorial next September the 10th. They're going to have a mud run. Now, next week we will describe what the mud run is. That's when I used to wash my dog in the family bathtub. That was a mud run. In any event, I want to be serious about that, not be facetious at all. Scott Brown was a gentleman whom I respected very much. And besides that, the guy gave me a black belt in karate.
How about that? Yes, he was very active in martial arts.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Anyway, so I want to call that to your attention, and next week we're going to talk more about that. Go ahead, Mrs. Busby.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to this weekend, please and thank you.
You're welcome.
They're having live music uptown from 7 in the evening until 11 in the evening. There's a stage that's going to be set up on the corner of Pulaski and Kickapoo Street, and they'll be serving libation for those who care to partake. The Lincoln Public Library is going to have a book sale, and that's always a good thing. If you don't care for TV, and there's a lot not to care for on television, go to the book sale, get a book, and enjoy reading. And that, now, what I was talking about uptown, that's Friday. Now, Saturday, they're having launches starting at 11 in the morning. Balloons Over 66 and a 5K run starting at 8 at the Park District, and the book sale, of course. And
are you running in that 5K run?
Pardon?
Are you running in that 5K run?
My running days are over. I'm in my sitting days. There's a car cruise on Broadway Street from 5 to 8 with a 50-50 raffle. Not rattling cars, 50-50 raffle. And the music, the bands will be uptown from 12 to 11. I don't know. That's a long afternoon for them.
Would you like my glasses while you're doubling through that?
Yeah, right. Anyway, it's going to be a very big weekend uptown, so get your duds on and plan to go up and see all the things that are going on. And there will be foodstuffs available hither and yon uptown, and the libation, as I mentioned. So be sure and take advantage of this. If you've got little kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, they'll enjoy this immensely. It seems to me we've been a bit since we've had a big balloon fest.
Oh, yes, that's been a long time since I had it. And by the way...
You know when the first one was? 1988.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you believe that?
I think we ought to tip our hats in the direction of Scott Goodman, who I think is kind of the major domo behind this particular balloon fest we're having, and is kind of responsible for getting the balloons that we have. So thanks to you, Scott, for that. Now, we're going to fill this next few minutes with something.
Have it ready.
Okay, all right. So we don't have it ready. So that's good. We're going to do something else then. Whatever it is, we don't know for sure. I wanted to mention the fact that the tiny homes out there on the corner of 6th and College Street, you will see 2 more homes going up out there on that lot. That lot was donated to us, to the community. I said this because it was part of our community, by Haji Patel, who has a emporium on Keokuk Street, in which you can find libations of various kinds. But I thought that was very nice of Haji to donate that real estate to the veterans for those 3 tiny homes.
That's a heck of a gift to the community.
Yeah, it sure is. So we just doff our hats in his direction for that. The veterans, we have some active veterans in this community. I call particular attention to the Marine Corps League, who have been very, very helpful to those of us who lives out there at the Christian Village on many projects, big and small. And Bill Dennis and a bunch of those boys at Marine Corps League have done a tremendous job for us out there, so we will doff our hats in their direction. I'd also like to remind you to, as we just mentioned a few minutes ago, next week is this business at the Park District, and you may not want to go run. You may not even want to go watch, but you could drop by and drop $5 or maybe a little more in the pot in honor of Scott Brown. I think that'd be a wonderful thing. Scott Brown had an influence on our youngsters, and a very positive influence. And I don't think you can overestimate the influence that he had on all the youngsters that went through this Taekwondo business. I wish I understood more about that. Okay, now what we're going to do now for the next couple of minutes, Gene and I have been privileged down through the years to go to what we call jazz gigs. The Decatur area had one for years, and they finally ran out of money, and they're not cheap to put on. But we'd go to those over at the Holiday Inn. Now it's for the conference center, I guess, in Decatur. In any event, we got to know some of the musicians pretty well, and I appreciate a man who can pick up a horn or a clarinet, or even sit down to a set of snare drums and entertain you. For the next few minutes, you're going to hear one of the greatest clarinets that ever picked up a licorice stick. So go right ahead, Mr. Ash.
I double dare you to sit over here. I double dare you to lend me your ear. Take off your high hat, let's get friendly. Don't be a scaredy cat. What you can't you take it there. I double dare you to kiss me then. I double dare you, come on kiss me again. And if that look in your eye means what I'm thinking of, well, I double dare you to fall in love with me. But I double dare you, yes now.
And that's musicianship at its best. You know, the fun part of going about to jazz gigs is you never see any sheet music on any of the bandstands. They don't. They just get up and play.
They just went for it.
If a guy walks in the back of the room and he's got his trumpet with him, he'll wander down the aisle and carry his trumpet up on stage, and at the appropriate time they'll nod to him and he'll step right in and blow his part. And then he'll nod off and the drummer will take his little gig. The drummer will nod off and the clarinet player will take his licks, and it's just an ongoing, and they can play all morning without any music.
That was why they called it the good old days, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it takes a real musician to do that. 648-5510. Somebody may have a question and or a comment. We may be old and we may bruise easily, but our feelings can't get hurt. So if you have any comments, don't hesitate. We can take a criticism or two. We may go out the door pouting, but that's all right.
Or just break down and cry.
You had your finger on some notes there, Mrs.
Yeah, I
Busby.
have. I'm back to the balloon business here. Balloons over 66. They have 30 balloons signed up. That's a big balloon fest. Mm-hmm. And the time schedule is as follows, if you want to grab a pencil. Friday evening at 6 or 6:15. And then, of course, the pilots meet prior to that and decide whether they'll be able to launch, whether there will be a balloon glow, or whether the weather is so terrible, awful, that there will be none of the above. But 6:15 they'll be starting on Friday evening, Saturday morning 6:15 to 6:30, and Saturday evening again at 6:15. The glow is set for Saturday evening at 8 at the Park District out on Prim Road. And the pilots set up the balloons and stay tethered to the ground and glow at night. And it's something to see. And 30 balloons is a bunch. So that'll be pretty impressive.
By the way, it takes sponsors to make these things work. Do your notes mention the sponsors at all by name, by chance? I want to recognize them if your notes...
I don't think it.
I didn't know whether those notes included it. So we want to acknowledge the fact that it does take it takes sponsorships to make these things go. By the way, speaking of going up in a balloon, I think I ought to put that on my bucket list and try hard to go up. And I don't mean just on a tethered balloon. I got to find somebody who'll take me up on a free flight, because the other day I got a call from a friend of mine. I never met him personally, but I know him through the Honor Flight organization, and somebody's going to bring what we call the yellow peril which was a basic trainer, steerman that the Navy used in their early flight training. And that's one of the few airplanes I haven't flown in. And looks like it appears that the old man's going to get a chance to go down to Springfield and climb in the cockpit of a Yellow Peril and go take a little ride around Sangamon County. And I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a big deal. I'm not sure of the date on it yet because I haven't got the final word. But, and speaking of things like that, the other day I got a notice by mail from the Knights Templar Eye Foundation, which is a great charity, or sponsored and organized by the Knights Templar organization in the nation, and somebody made a contribution in my name, and I want to suggest that to you, you listeners out there. If you've got a special person that in your life or lives, and you want to do something nice for them, boy, that sure makes you feel good to know that somebody dropped a dime in your name. Mm-hmm. I had that happen to me.
Bless her heart, huh?
I had that happen to me. Somebody gave a fair amount of money, too, to Lincoln College in my name. And that sure makes you step high.
Aren't we just lucky to have colleges in our town?
Oh, by the way.
We've got a lot of things in this town that are pretty lucky for a city this size.
And speaking of Lincoln College, it hasn't been officially announced yet, except I got a call from the librarian at the Lincoln College, the annual soiree, which is a huge fundraiser for the college and a very, very needed one. Unfortunately, Dr. Gerlach has seen fit, and I think rightfully so, to cancel this because of this COVID situation. So that's a public announcement to probably be on the airways or on the print pages within the next few hours. But that doesn't mean that you should forget Lincoln College. Step forward maybe and make an extra contribution, maybe in Grandma Ogg's name or somebody. Mm-hmm. But in any event, they can use the income from what they generated from that soiree, which is a very nice annual party. And it's too bad, but COVID has raised its ugly head again in the community.
You know,
and
COVID
it's necessary.
has
We just have to do that.
Everybody in one way or another.
Yeah.
This is really a scourge of the earth, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah, it's interesting. Back when I was, back when I was a kid, nobody wants to hear about that. But George Seller was a public health officer, and he'd come around to your house if you had measles or whooping cough, and tack a red card on your door.
Is that right?
And you were quarantined.
Is that right?
That's the way it was done in the 30s.
Well, I'll tell you, if they're going to quarantine people for this COVID, that's going to take a lot of those red cards.
Oh, my. Well, I think the college is in exactly the right position to have reluctantly to made this decision to cancel this because of the COVID thing. You know, some folks, well, what's so bad about that? Well, it's a scourge. It's a terrible thing. And if we had a siege of it here in Logan County, our attention would be a little bit different. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, hats off to Logan County, or to the college, for making that correct decision. And also, in conjunction with that, I put my both hands out for a plea for a check sent to the Lincoln College. Pick your favorite partner, pick your favorite person that you know, and make a contribution in their honor and make their day. Be a Clint Eastwood.
There you go.
Make my day. Yes.
There you go.
Go right ahead, my dear. You have your notes there.
Well, yeah, I've got lots of notes on this balloons over 66 for this weekend, and it's going to be pretty darn nice. So I hope to heaven we have good weather so that people can get out and take advantage of this. It's a very nice thing. And just think, this has been an ongoing event since 1988. Bill, that goes back a bit.
I'm not sure that I can remember that far back.
Oh, yeah, well, we were alive and well then, that's for darn sure. That's for sure.
Well, at least alive. You folks will find we could laugh about this thing, Judy and I. We're on the end of the spectrum that starts the day we're born.
There you go.
Things are winding down, so
We are sure winding
it's
down.
a matter
right.
of perspective how you take it.
For
I
sure.
choose not to like it, but I take it.
Now, this car show that's being held in conjunction with the Balloon Fest is at 5 to 8 on Broadway between Kickapoo and McLean. So take advantage of that, because, boy, there's lots of car buffs out there. Witness the organizations that form. Some are Chevy lovers, some are Ford lovers, some are Lincoln lovers. It just runs the spectrum, doesn't it?
Speaking of Fords, we've all seen it time and time again on your TV screen of the early Ford productions and how they rolled out of that.
Yes.
One after another just rolled out of the garage. And old Henry decided that the right way to build a car was an assembly line production rather than individual. And look what that did to manufacturing of automobiles.
And everything else. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah, thank goodness people like Henry come along, because they have some real insight and get things moving.
Which reminds me, that's the part of television that's worthwhile. They've had how things are made periodically on certain sections of television, and it's really fascinating to watch the old times, how things were made back in the 30s, for instance. For goodness sakes,
that goes back a ways, and it's certainly changed since then. Now it moves along much more quickly than it did in the good old days, right?
Good old days. People like to hear me talk about the good old days.
Well, they do. You know, we always look at the past as having been a kinder, gentler time, and it wasn't always. We're probably living in the good times, Bill.
Well, for instance, just a little thing out here, we're going through the growing season, and it's past time for detasseling and all that, but the business of detasseling corn created a lot of jobs for a lot of kids.
Oh, yes.
And, I remember my kid's brother and sister were doing that, and my mother commented about that's awful hard work, and my father looked at her and he says, let me tell you something, hard work never killed anybody.
Yeah, that's right.
That was his mantra, because he'd grown up the hard way.
I think most of our parents grew up a lot harder way, quote unquote, than we did.
Well, somebody said,
than our kids did.
Somebody talks about, did you have air conditioning? I said, yeah, if I went to the Lincoln Theater.
There you go.
Or air conditioning. And by the way, I suspect there are a lot of people went to the theater just because they had air conditioning, not because of the movies of the day.
And the poor people who made the movies were probably being so happy that they made such a good movie. Well, but they released it in the heat of the summer, and that helped too.
There are a few of you out there in the airways who will remember what they had selected short subjects before the main movie. And one time I recall we had a comedian by the name of Bob Benchley, and he purported to give you a entertaining and lucid talk on the sex life of the amoeba. And he went in great detail on the amoeba, and when it was all said and done, he says, now you'd like to see an amoeba. And he opened his hands, and his palm was fetched on the camera, and that was it.
What the hey? Oh, dear heaven.
And we had RKO News, Pathé News, and Fitzpatrick's Travelogues. That was the Rick Steves of the day.
That was the Rick Steves of the day, huh?
Yes. By the way, I mentioned Rick Steves. If anybody likes to go traveling in Europe while you're sitting in your TV set in front of your own room, that's a great way to go to Europe on Sunday afternoons. A very, very interesting travelogue. He does a great job. So that's about all I have to more for now. You want to fill out the next 10 minutes?
Well, I'm sorry that this happened. It's unfortunate on several levels.
Well, we're going to bring them back. Folks want to know about the courthouse. All we know is we walk by there and look at it and see all that scaffolding up there, and we know, oh boy, That's costing some money. So we're going to find out more about that. We're going to bring back David and Bill Walter probably on the 29th if we can get a hold of them between then and now.
You say that's costing some money, and of course it is.
Oh, boy.
But you know, it would be a greater cost on so many levels if we didn't take care of the courthouse.
Oh, the taxpayers in the community stepped forward and swung a big bat on that when they approved that referendum. We were going to lose that venerable old building for sure, and now it's being saved because the taxpayers saw fit to support that.
And thank goodness, you know, we all groan and carry on about taxes and costs and so forth, and rightly so, but without that, we won't have anything of the beauty of yore.
Well, by the way, one of the great architectural successes that I remember as far as old buildings was concerned, down in Springfield, across the street from what was known as Myers Brothers, the center of Springfield, downtown shopping area, the old state capitol building. And they wanted to put a parking lot underneath that area. So they took that apart piece by piece and marked the numbers, all the pertinent blocks and so forth, moved them all to the state fairgrounds, went about their business of putting a parking lot in there, and then brought that stuff back and put it back like a jigsaw puzzle. And thank God they did that rather than just tear down the building.
Yeah, right. Amen. Well, thank you for being with us today, and Bill, you're a dandy. And
how do you define dandy?
Yeah, you are. So please be with us next week, and we will look forward to visiting with you at on Viewpoint at 8:15 to 9 in the morning on Wednesday.
And David, I'll tell you when we're going to have those courthouse boys back so you'll know. Thank you very much for Viewpoint.